I can still smell the buttery crust in the oven. Grandma always loved my chicken pot pie. She'd nod, mouth watering, the moment she heard the sizzle. Tonight was no different. I'd been nursing her for months, spoon-feeding her a little at a time. But tonight, she surprised me. I gently lifted a piece to her lips, expecting her usual slow, shaky bites. Instead, she opened her mouth wide and practically devoured it. She finished every crumb like she was starving. It felt like hope. Ethan, my son, peeked around the corner. He's only 10, but he's seen more hospital beds and pill bottles than any kid should. He gave Grandma a shy wave. She smiled back, a small but bright moment of peace. After dinner, I tucked her into bed. She squeezed my hand and whispered, "Thank you, Lily." That was it. No long speech, just a soft, heartfelt goodbye. I kissed her cheek and turned off the lamp. A few hours later, I woke to silence. No steady breathing. No gentle rustling of sheets. I rushed to her room, only to find her perfectly still, her eyes closed like she was peacefully asleep. That's how I lost her. And in that quiet moment, I realized I was completely alone in our house. The next morning, my siblings arrived like a traveling show. Brad wore a crisp black suit, reeking of cologne that made me dizzy. Lauren strutted in next, sunglasses perched on her head as if we were at a fancy brunch, not Grandma's funeral planning. I expected tears, maybe a warm hug. Instead, I got icy nods and whispered gossip about Grandma's estate. The funeral director tried asking about flowers and music choices, but nobody seemed to care. Brad kept asking if we had a final list of assets. Assets. Like Grandma was a checkbook, not a person. We gathered in the living room, the place Grandma used to crochet blankets, watch game shows, and hold my hand whenever life got tough. Now, it felt like a courtroom. My siblings were judge and jury. Lauren, flipping through her phone, sneered, "Well, Lily, you were basically just the help these past years, right?" Her voice dripped with condescension. My chest tightened, my eyes stung, but I forced a calm expression. In that tense moment, the attorney arrived. He held a sealed envelope marked "Last Will and Testament." Brad glanced at me with a smug grin. They were about to learn exactly how Grandma decided to split her life's work. The lawyer read out the formalities, Grandma's name, the date, and the official language. We all sat rigid, waiting for the truth. My heart pounded, remembering how much I'd sacrificed. 10 years of caring for Grandma wasn't just help, it was a promise I made. But my siblings never believed that. He listed property after property. The mountain cabin went to Brad. The beachfront condo went to Lauren. They got the stock investments, the savings accounts, her jewelry collection. It was like a never-ending treasure chest pouring out in front of me. I gripped the armrest, trying not to react. Then came my part. To my granddaughter Lily, I leave the old house on Main Street. The lawyer paused, clearly uncomfortable. I blinked, half expecting more. But that was it. No mention of money. No mention of accounts, just this aging home that needed endless repairs. My siblings snickered. Brad cleared his throat. "Wow, Lily, that's nice." His insincerity made my stomach turn. Lauren shot him a warning look, but he couldn't resist twisting the knife. "I'm sure you can sell it. If you ever need the cash, you know who to call." My mind reeled. After years of caregiving, I got what felt like scraps. My vision blurred with tears. Then I heard Brad's chilling suggestion. "You should list it soon." I tried to focus on the hum of the refrigerator, the gentle ticking of the clock on the wall. The day kitchen, once brimming with Grandma's warmth, felt hollow. I walked past the worn-out table where I fed her soup on cold nights. Memories of her shaky hand clasping mine flooded my mind. I remembered a specific day. Ethan was only 5, and I was juggling Grandma's medications. My parents stepped in, helping care for Ethan while I stayed here overnight. The guilt still haunts me. Did I do enough for him? For her? Now, the sink was empty, the stove cold. Even the radio that Grandma loved was silent. The sadness pressed against my chest like a heavy weight. I ran my fingers over the tile countertop, noticing a faint crack. We once laughed at that crack, calling it our little fault line. But with Grandma gone, every imperfection in this house felt magnified. I glanced at the spot where her wheelchair left marks on the floor. Tears welled up. Suddenly, a loud creak echoed from the living room, snapping me back. My heart jolted. I followed the sound and stepped on a loose floorboard. It groaned under my foot, a hollow note. Something was beneath it. My fingers trembled as I pried open the loose floorboard. Dust curled into the air, tickling my nose. I expected maybe some old photos or newspapers. Instead, I found stacks of $100 bills bound with rubber bands. They looked worn but still valuable. Thousands upon thousands of dollars. My pulse surged. I shuffled through them, quietly counting. 30 bundles, each a neat pack of 100 bills. $300,000 total. My breath caught in my throat. Why would Grandma hide this? And why hadn't she put it in the will? Beside the money was a small envelope. It had my name on it, written in Grandma's frail handwriting. My eyes burned with tears. This was her secret, her final gift. I stared at the piles of cash, speechless. The magnitude of it shook me. Grandma must have known my siblings would fight over anything official. Did she do this to protect me, knowing I'd need real help someday? I carefully returned the bundles to their hiding spot. My heart pounded with a mix of relief and confusion. The silence in the room buzzed with importance. Grandma had planned this all along. Then, from outside, I heard footsteps on the porch. My stomach twisted. I tucked the money away. Clutching the envelope, I stood up, bracing myself for whoever was at the door. When I was sure I was alone, I tore open the envelope. Inside was a folded sheet of paper. The ink smudged in places. It began with, "My dearest Lily," and tears immediately formed. Grandma wrote about her pride in me, how I sacrificed my youth to care for her, how I balanced being a mother and a granddaughter. She knew the rest of the family would brush me off. "Don't be bitter," she warned in her letter. "I've left something for you, hidden, so you and Ethan will always have a safety net." Her words wrapped around my heart like a warm hug. She had seen my sleepless nights, my early mornings, and my tearful breakdowns when I thought no one was watching. She reminded me to stay kind, to stay strong, words she always whispered in life and now in writing. By the time I reached the end, I was sobbing. She signed off with, "I love you now and always," and drew a small heart. My tears blurred those final strokes. A sharp knock rattled the front door. I jumped. Before I could hide the letter, I heard a familiar voice call out, "Lily, open up." It was Brad, and he wasn't leaving. I wiped my tears, shoved Grandma's letter into my back pocket, and opened the door. Brad stood there with a forced smile, hands in his pockets. He looked too casual for someone who'd just lost his grandmother. "Hey," he said, stepping in without waiting for an invitation. "Just wanted to see how you're prayed," holding up. His eyes roamed around the living room, scanning for something. It felt like he was appraising the place. He cleared his throat. "So, about that house. A realtor friend of mine is really interested. Great deal, fast money." His tone was bright, almost cheerful. I swallowed hard, trying to sound calm. "I'm not selling yet." Brad's jaw tightened. "You should consider it. The market's hot, and you don't want an old place dragging you down." He stepped closer, voice dropping. "Think about Ethan. You need the cash, right?" My stomach churned. How did he know about my financial struggles? Did he suspect anything about the hidden money? His eyes bored into mine, a silent threat. After he left, I double-checked every lock. Later that night, I woke to a sound in the hallway. I flicked on the light. Muddy footprints trailed from the front door to the living room. Someone had been inside, watching. The next day, I spotted a silver sedan parked across the street. 2 silhouettes sat inside. My heart hammered. Whenever I peeked out the window, they seemed to shift, trying not to be obvious. After an hour of pacing, I decided to leave the house. I had errands to run and couldn't stay paranoid forever. I locked the door, walked to my car, and caught a glimpse. Brad and his wife, Tessa, eyes fixed on me, Tessa's phone in hand. They were so brazen, they didn't even pretend otherwise. I kept my face neutral, got into my car, and drove away. My phone buzzed. It was my mom, frantic. "Ethan just called. He said some stranger asked him about you after school," she said. My blood ran cold. I circled back toward the house, deliberately passing by the diner on Main Street where Brad and Tessa were known to hang out. Sure enough, their sedan was parked outside. I crept behind the building, intending to confront them. Instead, I overheard Tessa's hushed voice. "We know Lily's got something. Brad, we'll scare her into selling, maybe leverage that kid if we must." I felt my knees wobble. My siblings weren't just rude, they were dangerous. My entire body trembled as I recorded their conversation. I held my phone tight, recording every incriminating word as Tessa and Brad laid out their plan. Tessa wanted to stake out the house, hoping I'd slip up and reveal the money. Brad even mentioned Ethan, suggesting they could corner me by using my son as bait. My stomach twisted in rage and terror. I stayed hidden until they left. My heart felt like it would burst from my chest. This was my own family. People who should have protected me were scheming to rob me, maybe even hurt Ethan. I played back the recording, each word carving an ache in my chest. My hands shook. I knew I had to act fast. I forwarded the audio file to my email, then called the police to report suspicious harassment, though I kept it vague for now. That evening, Ethan and I walked home from his friend's house. It was dark, the streetlights casting long shadows. My phone buzzed again. An unknown number. I didn't answer. My gut told me we were being followed. Suddenly, Brad and Tessa appeared from an alley. They blocked our path, faces tight with determination. Tessa advanced on me, venom in her eyes. Then red and blue lights flashed behind them. The sirens wailed. The police had arrived. I'd called in a tip earlier, detailing a potential domestic threat. The cops took a while, but they showed up at the perfect moment. Brad and Tessa stiffened under the flashing lights. The police stepped out, hands on their holsters, commanding them to back away. I pulled Ethan close, relief spreading through me as the officers separated everyone. I handed one officer my phone. "There's a recording," I said, voice shaking. He assured me they'd look into it, his partner already questioning Tessa. Tessa tried her crocodile tears, calling it a family misunderstanding. Brad insisted they were just worried about me and Ethan. But the cops weren't easily fooled. They took statements, asked them about the threatening words. My recording would be enough to keep them on watch, but the police needed more proof for serious charges. Brad glared at me, lips tight, but he stayed silent. A crowd of curious neighbors gathered. I felt my cheeks burn from the attention, but at least we were safe for now. After the police left, the whispers started. People asked if Brad had gambling issues. Some mentioned Tessa's insurance scheme rumors. It seemed the whole town was buzzing. Watching their retreating figures, I realized this was far from over. The story was spreading, and so was the truth about my siblings' desperation. Within days, gossip spread like wildfire. Everywhere I went, I caught people whispering about Brad and Tessa's shady behavior. Some called them opportunists, others called them thieves. I heard about Brad's so-called investments that went belly up. Tessa's rumored insurance fraud. Bits and pieces of their secrets leaked out. At the grocery store, the cashier gave me a sympathetic look and said, "I heard about your brother." I just nodded, too drained to answer. It was surreal to be the talk of our small town. Tessa tried to fight back with a dramatic online video. She sobbed on camera, painting herself as a victim of family bullying. She claimed I was violent, but the community saw through it. Comments piled up, calling her a liar. Her plan backfired spectacularly. In the midst of all this, I got a call from Lauren, my other sister. Her voice was icy. "You've turned this family into a joke?" she spat. "Do you enjoy all this attention?" I said nothing, just listened to her rage. She hurled accusations, demanded I apologize for slandering Brad and Tessa. When she finally ran out of steam, she hung up. My stomach churned. I knew Lauren was just getting started. A week later, I was sifting through Grandma's old box of photos, searching for pictures Ethan might want for a family tree project. My phone buzzed. Lauren again. I hesitated, but curiosity won. She sounded smug. "Guess who I ran into?" she said. Before I could reply, she purred. "Chad's back, says he wants to see you and Ethan." My pulse hammered. Chad was Ethan's father, the man who vanished when I found out I was pregnant. We hadn't heard from him in years. Now he was back. I struggled to keep my voice steady. "Why would he come to you?" She laughed, ignoring the question. "He wants to reconnect. I invited him to Grandma's funeral, but he didn't show. He told me he'll be in town a while." I hung up, my head spinning. That evening, as Ethan and I walked home from the library, I spotted a figure across the street, tall with a familiar stance. It was Chad, leaning against a lamppost, a small suitcase by his side. He looked thinner, older, but the arrogant half-smile was still there. He caught my eye. I froze. 1,000 memories rushed in: anger, heartbreak, betrayal. He lifted a hand in a tentative wave. The past I'd buried was suddenly right there, staring me down. I ushered Ethan into the house, trying to keep my composure. My heart thumped in my ears. Through the window, I saw Chad slowly approach our gate. He paused, then walked away, vanishing into the night. Later, Ethan found me in the kitchen, pacing. "Mom," he said quietly, "a man told me he was my dad today." My heart squeezed. I knelt down, my hands on his shoulders. He might be," I said, voice trembling. "But he hasn't been around, and I don't trust him." Ethan's eyes flickered with confusion, but he nodded bravely. Chad texted me the next morning. "Chad, hey Lily, I want to talk. Please." I stared at the screen, memories flashing of late-night fights, him storming out, leaving me in tears. I typed, we have nothing to talk about." He replied immediately, "Chad, I've changed. I just want to see our son." My nerves jangled. I couldn't let him waltz back into Ethan's life after a decade of silence. But ignoring him wouldn't solve anything. I had no idea if he had an agenda or if my siblings had roped him into their schemes. The next call came from the bank. It turned out Chad had already made a move. When the banker identified himself, my heart sank. I recalled the modest trust fund I'd set up for Ethan a few years ago, just a small amount I'd saved from freelancing and side jobs. Enough for college someday, if I kept adding to it. "We have Chad Decker here asking about an account under Ethan's name," the banker said, sounding perplexed. "He claims he's the father and has rights, but you set it up with specific restrictions, correct?" My breath caught. I confirmed those restrictions. Only I or Ethan, once he turned 18, could withdraw. Chad was explicitly blocked. It was a precaution I'd taken, just in case. The banker reassured me that no money was released. Chad left empty-handed. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part felt relief that my protective measures worked. That evening, when I explained to Ethan, at least as simply as I could, he nodded, understanding. "He can't just come back now," he whispered, tears in his eyes. I hugged him, heart aching that my 10-year-old even had to worry about this. Then, as if the day couldn't get worse, Lauren showed up unannounced, all smiles, offering hugs like we were best friends. Something was definitely off. Lauren swept in, arms full of pastries from our favorite bakery. The sweet smell filled the kitchen, and Ethan's eyes lit up at the sight of chocolate croissants. Still, her sudden warmth felt fake. She chatted about everything except the family drama, tiptoeing around the subject of the will. Her tone was syrupy, her questions too polite. "How's the house, Lily?" she asked, glancing around. "Got big plans? Are you thinking of moving?" She even offered to help me pack. I knew she was fishing. She wanted details, maybe a slip of the tongue about hidden money or the house's real value. Instead, I played along, forcing a smile and short answers. Inside, I was seething. She helped me tidy the living room, all the while dropping subtle hints about letting go of old memories. She even mentioned, "I'm sure you'd want Ethan in a better neighborhood. Don't you want him to have more space?" When she finally left, I slumped onto the couch, furious at how transparent she was. Then my phone pinged. Ethan texted from his room. "Chad is outside again." I rushed to the window. Sure enough, Chad lingered on the sidewalk, scanning the house like he was searching for something, or someone. That night, I sat with Ethan in his room, both of us tensed. He spoke up first. "Mom, he keeps asking me about my favorite things, sports, games, candy. He never asks how I feel or what I want to do." My chest tightened. My son saw right through Chad's hollow attempts. Ethan looked older than his 10 years in that moment. "It's like he's trying to be my friend, not my dad," he said. I pulled him into a hug. My guilt flared. I'd tried to protect him from a father who vanished, but now he was forced to deal with a stranger's awkward attempts at connection. I squeezed Ethan's hand. "You don't have to go with him, you know?" I assured him. He nodded, relief washing over his face. Still, an unease settled in me. Chad wasn't giving up, which meant he wanted something more than father-son bonding. When Ethan fell asleep, I thumbed through my phone contacts and found my lawyer's number. I needed to reinforce every legal safeguard. If Chad was sniffing around for access to Ethan's trust fund, or Grandma's hidden money, I had to make sure he'd come up empty. First thing in the morning, I'd meet my attorney and update every document I could. Bright and early, I met my lawyer in a small, cluttered office downtown. Dust floated in sunbeams as he pulled out the files. Together, we revised the trust language, making it crystal clear. Only Ethan, and later me as trustee, had control. Chad's name was permanently excluded. If he tried to meddle, it would be an immediate legal dead end. Smart move, my lawyer said, nodding firmly. Given the tensions with your siblings, it might be wise to mention that hidden money to me in confidence. I hesitated, but I needed his advice. In a hushed tone, I shared the truth about Grandma's hidden $300,000. His eyebrows shot up. You need to deposit it in a secure account. Quietly, he said. Don't let your siblings or Chad catch wind. I agreed. My plan was to split the cash into smaller certified deposits so it wouldn't raise suspicions. I wanted to ensure Ethan's future and protect us from any sudden storms. Just as I finished signing paperwork, my phone buzzed. A message from my security camera app. Door alert, motion detected at front door. My heart pounded. I hurried to check the live feed. There was Chad pacing on my porch with a scowl as if he owned the place. I braced myself before opening the door. Chad's expression was a mix of desperation and anger. Lily, he started, voice cracking, please, let me see my son. I stood firm, crossing my arms. You had a decade to see him, I replied, heart pounding. You were gone when he needed you most. Ethan wasn't home, thankfully. He was at my parents' place for the day. Chad didn't need to know that. He tried to push past me, but I blocked him. I've changed, he insisted, eyes darting nervously. I want to do right by Ethan. I stayed stone-faced. This isn't about you, I said, each word deliberate. If Ethan wants to see you when he's older, that's his choice. For now, I don't trust you. His face twisted with frustration. For a split second, I saw a flicker of the old Chad, the one who flipped tables when angry, the one who stormed out screaming. But he held back, stepping away. You'll regret this, he muttered, turning on his heel. I locked the door behind him, hands shaking. I checked my phone and saw a message from my lawyer. All trust updates finalized. No matter how Chad tried to squirm in, legally, he was shut out. For good. I was still replaying the confrontation in my head when Lauren barged in. She didn't even knock, just stormed through the front door. Her face was flushed with anger. Chad told me everything, she spat. You blocked him from his own son's trust? Are you insane? I stared at her, stunned. How did Chad even get her on his side? Lauren's eyes raked the room, and I realized she was looking for evidence of hidden money. Maybe for a big payoff. I grabbed the legal document from the counter, holding it up like a shield. This is Ethan's. Neither you nor Chad has any claim. Grandma left the house to me. That's the end of it. She scoffed, flipping her hair back. We know Grandma didn't leave you just a house. Brad heard rumors about money. Her hands clenched. You think you're so clever hiding it? This family doesn't keep secrets from each other. Her hypocrisy stung. I stepped forward, meeting her gaze. You took everything else, I said, voice trembling with rage. Let me have this one piece of peace. Lauren's jaw tightened. She turned and stomped out, but paused at the door. She shot me a glare over her shoulder. Chad won't give up, neither will we. The days blurred as I tried to rebuild some sense of normalcy. I'd spent so many years caring for Grandma that I forgot to care for myself. For the first time, I wasn't tied to a sickbed or a constant medication schedule. I started volunteering at the local community center, helping seniors with reading and companionship. It felt therapeutic, like I was continuing Grandma's legacy of kindness. Some recognized me from the recent drama, shooting me pitying looks, but I focused on the work. I spent afternoons guiding elderly residents through crafts or simply holding their hands as they reminisced. At the library, I read stories to young kids while Ethan drew quietly in a corner. For the first time, I saw him truly smile without the shadow of worry. It reminded me that maybe we could still find joy, even after all this chaos. Then the inevitable whispers reached me. That's Lily. She's the one with all the inheritance drama. I pretended not to hear, but the tension brewed in my gut. On my way out, someone tapped my shoulder. A concerned neighbor murmured, "Is it true your brother's got gambling debts?" I forced a small smile and walked away. My siblings' secrets were out, and the weight of their shame was starting to crush them. One afternoon, Ethan came home from school holding a piece of construction paper. He couldn't wait to show me. On it was a simple drawing, a large tree, branches thick with green leaves. At the base was a small house with a cozy yellow light, and inside, 2 stick figures, labeled Mom and Me. Above the house was a bird's nest, symbolizing safety. "This is our house," he explained shyly. "I know it's old, but it's ours." I felt tears sting my eyes. I pinned the drawing to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a sunflower. Grandma would have loved it. She used to say this old house was like a tree, worn on the outside but deeply rooted in love. Ethan's drawing sparked an idea. All my life, I'd been caring for someone. Grandma, Ethan, sometimes even my siblings. Now, with the hidden money and the house as a safe place, maybe I could help more people like us. I started sketching out plans, a small resource service for women and single mothers who felt trapped in caregiving roles, like I once did. I didn't know the first thing about running a program, but the thought ignited a hopeful spark in my chest. This place could become a beacon, not just for us, but for others too. I reached out to an old friend, Marisol, who worked in family services. We hadn't talked in years, but when I explained my passion project, using Grandma's house as a hub to help caregivers, she lit up. "I've been looking for a partner to launch a caregiver support initiative," she said excitedly. "We'd provide meals, temporary shelter, counseling. There's real need in our community." My heart soared. We toured the house, noting repairs needed to make it suitable. The roof had leaks, the paint was peeling, and the floors creaked ominously. Still, Marisol saw the potential. She pointed out safe corners, cozy spots. "This place feels like home," she remarked, smiling. The same day, we got our first inquiry. A woman named Denise called, frantic. She was caring for her elderly mother and 2 kids on a tight budget. She'd heard rumors of a new support service. My chest tightened. Her story echoed mine. "I'm not sure we're open yet," I faltered. But she sounded desperate. I couldn't turn her away. That evening, I realized we were stepping onto a path Grandma would have been proud of. As I hung up the phone, my eyes drifted to Ethan's drawing. Life was coming full circle, just like Grandma predicted. Chad showed up again out of the blue, disheveled and anxious. I was on the porch reviewing cost estimates for house repairs. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the yard. He stopped in front of me, head bowed slightly. "Lily," he said softly, "I lost my job. I'm behind on rent. I have nowhere to go." His hands shook. I felt a momentary pang of sympathy, remembering the younger Chad who once made me laugh. But I also remembered how he vanished when I needed him most. "I'm sorry, Chad," I said, voice firm. "I can't let you stay here." He looked up, eyes pleading. "I'm Ethan's father. Don't you have any heart?" My throat constricted, but I stood strong. "I have every heart for my son, and that's why I'm protecting him." Chad tried one last tactic, stepping closer. "Do you have any idea what it's like out there? Don't do this, Lily." I stared him down, a storm of old hurt and rage swirling inside me. "You walked away," I whispered, barely keeping my voice steady. I walked forward. His face crumpled, and he trudged off into the growing darkness, shoulders slumped. Somehow I knew this was his final move. We were done. That night, Ethan and I decided to make Grandma's favorite meal, chicken pot pie. The smell filled the kitchen, warm and comforting. We laughed when flour dusted our noses, and Ethan pretended to be a TV chef, explaining each step with dramatic flair. We sat down to eat, just the 2 of us at the table. For the first time in years, I felt fully present. No looming dread, no tension in my spine. We talked about school, his favorite games, and our future plans for the house's caregiver program. Halfway through dinner, Ethan smiled. "Mom, I'm proud of you." My eyes watered. "Why's that?" I asked softly. He shrugged. "You never gave up. Even when everyone else was mean or left, you kept going." I squeezed his hand across the table, my heart swelling with gratitude. Maybe he saw how hard it's been. Maybe it made him realize how strong love can be. Later, after washing the dishes, we played a board game. I let him win, and he pretended not to notice. As we cleaned up, he looked at me with serious eyes and said, "Mom, when I grow up, I'll protect you." The simple promise melted away every doubt. We were finally free to heal. Morning light streamed through the balcony doors. I carried a cup of tea to my favorite wicker chair, the one Grandma used to sit in. The air felt crisp, almost new. For a moment, I closed my eyes and pictured Grandma knitting quietly beside me, content to watch the world wake up. Downstairs, Ethan rummaged in the kitchen. I could hear him humming a tune. Something cheerful. My heart swelled with a quiet joy. We had made it through every storm. Brad and Tessa's threats, Lauren's manipulations, Chad's sudden return. In the end, we stood firm, holding on to each other. The house creaked and groaned, but it felt alive, full of potential. Repairs were scheduled for next week, and Marisol and I had already outlined our support services. Grandma's final gift would fund the transformation of this old place into a sanctuary for those who needed it most. I sipped my tea, letting its warmth spread through me. The leaves on the big oak in our yard rustled gently, a soothing whisper of promise. Everything felt right. I exhaled, releasing the last bit of tension clinging to my heart. The sun rose higher, lighting every corner of the balcony, and for the first time in forever I smiled and whispered, "I'm home. Truly home."